Hey, hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and a very happy Thanksgiving to all of you today that have joined. It's a special day. We have been talking about having a turkey in the background. That was the backstage discussion that I had with the team here. But such a special day. Thankful to all our customers and partners in this journey of Robocorp, where we are building amazing automations based on open source, based on Python. The most reliable automation that you could build for your enterprises, it's on Robocorp. And thank you for trusting in us, and thank you for making this journey awesome. Thank you for all the community contributions, the open source ecosystem that have helped us get here. Thank you again for joining this special edition of Product R Live. I'm excited to host this show today with two of my brilliant colleagues who are going to talk in depth about our new APIs and integrations and how we can have bidirectional communication with every technology in and around the space of automation. So without further ado, let's just get on to the usual. We will start with the Product Monthly Roundup, where we talk about some of the highlights that happened, highlights of the features that we released in the month. Let's get there. Okay, let me know if you can hear me well and see my screen. Awesome. Cool. So what did we do? Some of the key highlights. Remark, your favorite generative AI-based assistant tool that helps you build amazing automation, which helps you build your code, which helps you identify errors, which helps you optimize your algorithms, has gone turbo. We have loads of automation framework updates and the new API helper. Let's start with the Remark going turbo. You know that during the OpenAI Dev Day, you saw the turbo release announcement, and it's been less than a week and a half, and we have been able to push the goodness of turbo. Only the goodness of OpenAI and not the drama that happened over the weekend. That is now available on Remark, which enhances the performance of Remark. You will instantly see the improvement of the performance, the faster response time. And also, since it gives the larger context window, you can use it for much more use cases than earlier. It also gives you the view of a transparent data source, so that you know for sure you are getting the right data from right sources without a lot of hallucination, right? So that control you have now on Remark. We have also built another new settings functionality where you can choose the tools, choose the language and preference, whether you just want to stick to Robocorp Python framework, or if you want to have the robot framework, you can choose all of these permutation and combination. If you don't do it, it's still fine. It tries to get to the context very well, and it will show that which of these tools have been used, but you now have the control of choosing your preference there as well. So that's Remark going turbo. It's faster than ever before. It is much more intelligent, and it provides you with the data source transparently so that you can be more confident of the data and the answers that you get. Moving on, automation framework updates. There have been at least 11, as I counted last time, which have been touched, which have been enhanced in the last month, including some of the bug fixes, some of the feature improvements. All these are loaded with new keywords, new functions if you are using Python, new keywords if you are using robot framework. Recommend you to check this out and let us know if there are any more keywords or functions that you need in these frameworks, these libraries, or if you want any more libraries for your use cases. Lastly, new API helper. So we did release the unified control room APIs, which brings the best of your assistants, the processes, everything under one roof. And of course, we are going to talk a lot more about it. But the new API helper, enhanced API helper, is already available on your cloud orchestration platform, that's Control Room, where you can easily select your tasks, selects your process and what you want to do, and you get your APIs examples already available. And you also now need not go to a third party app like Postman and then try these things. You can try it on the helper itself, and then you can see the JSON response and build your downstream process right from there. So that's the API helper. But I have a guest today who's going to talk more about why these new APIs when we had amazing APIs already. I'm happy to welcome Ben. Let's get Ben on the show. Hi,
Hi,
Ben.
everyone.
Bonjour.
Hi, Tejus. Bonjour.
How are you, Ben?
I'm really good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So tell us a bit about yourself. Where are you and why bonjour?
Okay, sure. So I'm based in Estonia, south of Finland, because I imagine most of you don't know where Estonia is. I'm originally from France, so that's why there's the bonjour in the introduction. And in Robocorp, as you can see on my title, I'm a platform engineering lead. So Robocorp has two sides, dev tool sides that Tejus was mentioning previously, and then there's the control room. Anything related to the control room, that's the platform in Robocorp. So I'm one of the engineers that is helping building control room, and the API is one of the things.
Awesome. And what did you do before this, Ben?
So right before I essentially my entire career has been working in startups. I really like startups. So the very previous startup I was working at, we were tracking trucks. And I was also, so I started as an engineer, so founding engineer, and I left as an architect type of thing, a bit of everything. So doing the coding, designing, etc., etc. And now in Robocorp now for 2.5 years already.
Oh, that's almost as long as, yeah, more than the average of most of our
Yes.
colleagues. That's long time. Cool. So Ben, I'll get right to the point. The new APIs. Before we talk about what does this new API do and everything, I just want to hear why was there need for these new APIs?
So that's an excellent question. Why was there a need? As you said, we had two APIs. We had the process API and the robot API. These APIs are still available until 2025 January. But when we looked at them, we could see that they were hard to use, that they were using terms that were different. And all of this was due to the fact that we build these APIs organically. We did not exactly know where we were going, so we added features and features and features, and eventually you have too many features, and it doesn't exactly look too cohesive. So we had the opportunity to take a look at all of this and realize that maybe we could unify the APIs. We would do that. It would simplify operating the API, and it would also allow us to build upon the vision that we have, which is to let you automate the automations, meaning by that in Robocorp, you can create automations and you can automate pretty much anything. Java application on very old hardware, you can automate like React apps if you use Playwright. But there's one thing that you cannot fully do, it's automating control room. So you can, for the most part, you can use the API, but there's some aspects where you need to click and you need to select and you need to add. And we want you to be able to do that automatically via an API. Does this answer your question, Tejus?
It does. But following up with that, when there is a user interface already, why is the need for an API?
Excellent question. So let's imagine. I imagine that the our audience is on the technical side. So let's take an example. You're writing your automation in VS Code. At the moment, if you want to put it to control room, as you said, Tejus, you need to do some clicking. You need to go to a UI. But what if there was one button that was just deployed to control room? Run it. So the same way, if some of you are familiar with DigitalOcean, if you go to GitHub, some projects have deployed to DigitalOcean. You click a button and the website is cloned, the code is cloned, and then it's deployed to DigitalOcean. So it's the same, pretty much the same thing. Having the ability to automate all of these things so that you can have a prepackaged not only code that is an automation, but also the entire infrastructure. And lastly, on this topic, some of you may be familiar with Terraform, infrastructure as code. And what we would want to, and that's the vision we have with this API, is to allow you as a customer to essentially set up your automation infrastructure the same way you set up your infrastructure for your system using Terraform. So this is really...
Yeah. Cool.
And this is really this idea where more power to you, because some people may be familiar and happy with the UI, and that's something that is going to continue happening because we want to have this direction where we have UI and APIs.
Correct. The other feedback I have heard from a lot of customers and large partners as well is the ability to do stuff in bulk, which especially when you are moving something from one deployment platform like a dev to a QA to a production, you do not want to repeat those steps manually because humans can make mistakes and we do make mistakes. And this ability of API driven automation ensures that you have exactly the same steps that you do on all these various environments from dev to QA to UI to production, and all that you change is probably the endpoints and authentication keys. So it's not going to be, so the names of the process going to be the same, the names of tasks and assets and the walls and everything is going to remain the same. And when you have more control with these endpoints instead of relying on UI, because then everything has to be manual. Here you can do it in batches, you can do this without typically touching. It's going to be more seamless and follows your CI/CD pipeline also without having to have any manual intervention in between on an app that only has UI UX. So that's some of the feedback that I have received from customers.
And you take it one step further, you could have automationception type of thing where you have your Robocorp process that sets up. So your example was excellent, where you want to move from one workspace to the other. Maybe you could have a workspace responsible for that does these operations.
True. Slightly tying that with the topic of the day, which is also about integration, it becomes even more important when you have multiple technologies working within your organization, because I mean, we are not somebody who says that everything under the roof of automation is going to be done on one platform. There will be different technologies. We are partnering with different technologies like IoT solutions. Maybe there are purpose-built ML models that needs to interact with. So there could be an orchestration layer on top, which the enterprises use, and hence us allowing our customers to use the features and functionalities of control room as API becomes extremely important to have that bi-directional communication between systems.
You have another example. We have multiple customers that ask to be able to access the vault items. In control room, you can store your secrets. Secretly, we have like we use KMS for those of you familiar. So it's under the hood. And at the moment, automations can access the vault, but not via the API. And as soon as we allow that, then there's many possibilities. You can safely interact with safe data, safely stored. So it's one of the many reasons for this API.
Cool. Are there anybody in the audience today who have already used the APIs? Need not be the new APIs, but even the old process APIs and control room APIs. we would love to hear some of the use cases that you have already built or planning to build, so that if there is any feature request, we have a direct access to the engineering team here with Ben. But continuing this question and thoughts on the APIs, tell us a bit about the new API helper, Ben.
So the new API helper, first thing, for customers, that's what you explain. You can run the queries directly from control room. So you don't have to use Postman, you don't have to use Insomnia, you just click a button. An interesting aspect of this API helper, it's a more technical aspect, is that we used to always have to update the helper whenever we would add a new endpoint. So we would add a new endpoint, and then you would have to go to the helper, touch the code, add the endpoint, make sure that everything was working, and essentially be these. And now it's entirely data-driven. So there's a spec, OpenAPI spec, and the helper is essentially fetching this spec at some intervals.
I mean, when you mentioned this, it was one of my questions as well about the spec that is updated, which was not the case in the previous one. Can you tell us a bit about it, because it's all the technical audience.
Sure. So
when spec, I mean, was this really important? Is it like out of the world?
No, it's not particularly out of the world. Like we're not like wizards that do things that others don't do. But what we try to do in Robocorp is have the best possible developer experience for our customers, but also internally, because we want happy developers. In my team, I have happy colleagues. Everyone is happy in Robocorp, and a huge part of that is having tooling that helps you. You don't want to start working and have the system fight you. You want to make your changes, and it has to be seamless. So that was something that we really wanted to do when developing the API. And for these changes, what I mentioned, having to always remember, I need to go update the API helper. I need to do this, I need to do that. Instead, you focus on the endpoint. Even the documentation is tied to the code. You write it, you push it. And since you said we have a technical audience, the way it works is when we deploy the API, we have a job that runs in the background that triggers the documentation, and it sends to the documentation website, so robocorp.com/documentation, the latest and the freshest API docs. The documentation is built, redeployed automatically, so no developer touches that part, and then it's live. And it also stores the spec so that the helper itself can now use the spec from this. So it's automation.
And also, on the other side, it's actually the streamlining of the process as well, right? It's the most efficient. Even if you don't explicitly introduce automation, you need these streamlines so that while you build amazing stuff, if we have elaborate process to bring it to market, bring it to customers, what's the fun, right?
Exactly. Sorry for cutting you, Tejus.
No. I was saying that we want the customers and developers to get the best of the features as quick as possible.
Exactly. And one aspect also that you mentioned, humans will make mistakes. Like you can be the best of everything, you will make mistakes. You can be tired. You can be. It doesn't matter. You may make a mistake. So we try to reduce as much as possible these mistakes. So when deploying an API, we will not have any breaking changes. That's the contract. It's an API. You cannot introduce breaking changes because you cause issues to your customers. So it was really important that we automate this process. We also have tests that are running. I could also talk for hours on this. It's a really interesting topic, and we built a lot of things. We have automatically scaffold tests, for example, under the hood.
Cool, awesome. I see Yuvraj and Paul have commented. Yuvraj says that they use the APIs to get the robots triggered by a third-party application, maybe a chat interface, or it could be any other enterprise app. Paul also says that they use a lot of MS Graph API with Robocorp, which shows that it's bi-directional, and hope to see a lot more through this hour. So thanks, Ben. I will for now push you off screen and invite you as my second guest of the day, but don't go away. I will still
I
like
want.
to have conversations about the future of new API helper. What are the other endpoints that are going to come, and a lot more. But for now, thanks so much, and I'll
Thanks a lot,
bring
Tejus.
Raivo on stage.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so hi Raivo, how are you? I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Yes, I'm good. How about you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you so much, Raivo, for joining today's session. Tell us a bit about you. What do you do at Robocorp, and what's your experience been like?
I'm also based in Estonia, like Ben was, and I am support engineer in Robocorp, helping customers and users solve their issues.
Cool. I am sure quite a few people, Raivo, know you. Even before you joined Robocorp, you have been an extremely active member of our community. Have answered so many questions on our Slack and forum. So thank you for doing that, and thank you for building community. And a lot of people look up to you and get inspired. So I'm really happy to have you on the show today.
Thank you.
Cool, Raivo. Let's dive right into the demos. What do you want to show? We would like to see the new API helper, and also today's topic is on the integrations. So, like to see what you have in the demos for us today.
So we will look a little bit how to put Robocorp's new APIs to Camunda. And
Please.
how to run them. So I will try to share my screen.
Sure.
Let's see how it goes.
Do you both live in the same city, Raivo, as Ben is?
Yes.
Cool.
So are you able to see my screen?
Yes, let me add it on the screen. Yes, we can see the screen now.
Okay, we are currently on the Camunda interface. And let's maybe start with very basic way to call the Robocorp API.
Sure. Raivo, if you don't mind, can we start with the new API helper first, if that's okay?
It's in the plan, so it's
okay. Cool.
It's inside, so we will make a very small process. We will basically what we will do. We will configure and call REST connector from Camunda.
Sure.
And to call it, we have to go to the API helper to get the information. So we start the helper. We choose what we want to do. So I will just start the process. We'll choose the API key, choose the process. Then several API endpoints have options how you can use them. For this demo, I will use the simplest one. Then you will get the process ID, and here below you can see the examples for calling the endpoint. So I will use parts from this one.
Cool. And I see that it can be curl or Python or JavaScript, so it gives code in all of them, right?
Yes, example code for all of them.
Perfect.
And also what is nice is initially the API key is hidden. So as you can see, it's hidden, and if you want to see it, you can still see it.
Cool. That's the authorization key, right?
Yes. And there is also a possibility to call the endpoint straight from the helper.
That's cool. That's cool. That's what Ben was also mentioning, right? Like now you have the same interface where you can already run it and see it for yourself. You need not go to a third party app like Postman.
Yes, and actually, if you use something that retrieves the data, you can also see the response and
Okay.
how the data is structured.
Cool.
But now let's go back to Camunda. So here we need to configure it. So we need to endpoint and set up. I need to change to post. And Camunda has play feature, which is for simple running. This means that this process is not deployed anywhere. It will be just locally available for running, but it can take a bit time to get it up. So let's hope it's not too long.
And the edition of version of the Camunda that you're using, is this something that people can try? Is there a community edition? Is there a free edition that people can try?
If you sign up, you have 30 days to use it freely. I'm using the cloud version. And after 30 days, you can still model, but you can't execute anymore.
Okay.
So let's see if it runs. It runs, and we can maybe see if we also have. We can see that also the process is started.
Perfect. Yeah, I mean, even in the log, we can see that the trigger has happened, and it has happened by API.
Yes.
Cool.
Now, from Camunda perspective, this kind of running, I would never advise to use. The problem with that one is, if you notice that when I configured it, I used the key.
Correct.
And also, for example, if I want to play it and I come down to here, you can see it also in the log. So it's maybe not the best way, and it will be included into the export XML. So it's
it should be encrypted, because if you get access to this key, then you can make calls to that particular process or that particular API without I mean, that's a scary part. So how can we fix that?
To fix that, we would need to build a custom connector. And what custom connector has available is, if we go to the menus, you can set up the connector secrets, and in that way you can use them safely in the connector. So easiest way to do a custom connector, or at least it seemed easiest, is you can actually take this one and you can basically clone it.
Okay.
I will not do it because it will take time, so I have already made one. And now it's starts the same process. It has secret key, which contains the for the API. And let's see, hopefully it has now everything. Let's see. now with this one is that because we added the secret, you can't anymore run it with the play because you don't have it available. So we will run it into the Camunda cloud. Hi. Okay.
So it has triggered already and it's finished. Yeah.
Yes. So when it's on some kind of stage, it shows where it is because we have very small call that then it doesn't stay for long, and we can see that it runs. And you can quite a lot customize those templates. So if we go to the and check how it looks like. So connectors are in form of JSON.
Okay.
With attributes. On the right side, you can see the interface it would generate. So you can add fields, you can hide fields, you can have drop downs, you can set hidden defaults, which is not visible for user. And if current setup is usable for, let's say, one organization in but needs to be customized, you can do the same thing like you did initially, that you clone it and remove maybe what you don't need and add what you need, and you can see. I will go back here, and you can see in our documentation there is quite long list of options you can add. As Ben mentioned, there is like you can manipulate the processes and steps and so on. So probably you won't need all of this in that kind of Camunda.
Correct.
Yeah.
And also, I mean, our developers need not be overwhelmed with these many attributes. All of this documentation, while it's there and up to date, is also available with Remark. So you can ask Remark these questions and attributes and examples. If you don't want to go back and read, I mean, I still recommend you to read some of this, but you need not be overwhelmed with this amount of documentation, because everything is documented, but everything is also trained to Remark, and Remark is enabled to answer these questions as well for you. Is that right, Raivo?
Yes, you are correct. Okay, let's go back. But yeah, it's customizable. You can also use logic to hide some fields based on the other fields and so on. So it's kind of flexible tool for building the small connectors.
Cool. Any other things that you want to talk about, Raivo? Like, what could be some use cases where platforms like Camunda is going to be useful?
From using our tooling, it's I would say probably the most common use case is launching the robots. So if we maybe check one of their templates.
Let me bring that.
So I will try to see maybe this one. So here is one of the Camunda's own template for the process. And as you can see, it contains quite many human steps.
Correct.
So considering our tooling, it would be possible to consider that maybe, for example, not approval, but logging the data into the system, that maybe this is something that can actually be automated. And Camunda can use integrations very well, but it can't interact with UIs. So this is where our robot could be used to launch the robot that would go into the system and punch in the numbers.
Correct. Yeah. And also one of the things is that, as I was mentioning earlier, there could be cases where there is, as you said, there is the human intervention that is required, which can also be done with us. But there are very long running workflows which starts today and then goes until, say, 3 days between multiple people, say approval cycles. And also in situations where there are various different types of technologies that needs to be orchestrated. For example, there could be a robot, there needs to be an IDP that needs to be executed, or in some scenarios, and it's not too uncommon that large enterprises have multiple automation platforms itself, like some of our technology, some of the legacy RPA companies. So I have seen customers who have a robot that gets triggered from Robocorp, and it does some work, then goes to IDP, and then some work gets done there, and then at the end of the day there is also a legacy robot that may be just doing some reporting on another RPA platform, and all of this could be an end-to-end process that's completely orchestrated, viewed, and tracked on Camunda. So that could be another use case where there are multiple different types of technologies or different RPA platforms itself that is orchestrated, governed, and analyzed at another layer than just the automation layer.
Yes, exactly. And also it is possible to change this kind of start point to a webhook and then or API, and then it would be possible to trigger it via our tooling.
Correct.
So you can do something with a Robocorp robot, and then it would launch the rest of the process, which is modeled and run by Camunda.
Correct. I think that's a very important point as well, right? It for us, it makes sense to create bidirectional communication. It's not just you trigger something from Camunda, but at the end of my process, is there a way for me to go back to Camunda and say, hey, I'm done? Because the trigger is just a trigger, right? Like the process that we create might take 2 minutes, might take 10 minutes, might take 20 minutes or more based on the number of work items that there is or the number of activities that needs to be done. So I see that you have already a demo for this. So I will let you continue there and tell us how to use these webhooks and then communicating back to Camunda.
Yes, it is possible. I would maybe visualize the logic. So in this case, 2 processes start. One can go on its way, but maybe one of the processes needs to be sure that it has been finished before it continues. So this is where the webhook comes into the play.
Sure.
So hopefully now when the process is done, it would give the signal, and then the process can go to the human user and close. So let's see if works. So we can close this one. We can set it.
So basically, it is triggering two different automations that are on the control room, correct?
Yes, this is parallel triggering. So two API endpoints will be called, and on this case, the Camunda process doesn't care what happens. So
Correct.
the process in our control room can run on its own. But for this process, we would like to be sure that it finishes before our process continues. Okay, let's see if we can. So now it's waiting. Hopefully, we can also see it is working here. So we can see this process is working. So. So the process on the left that I launched uses the work items. So it has several work items.
So that's also now.
Need to continue, but maybe I have a demo effect. Yes, seems that we reached the demo effect because also this process has stuck.
Maybe it is waiting for the processes to get update from. Okay, it says completed.
It is completed. For some reason, it didn't update live. It usually updates live, but it completed, and now it's waiting on the user to complete the process, and then the whole process is complete.
Sure.
Yeah, I will quickly also maybe show how it is set up on the control room side. So if you go to process configuration, you can use webhook notifications. This is the webhook that is provided by Camunda and used then to configure the run. And it is a little bit situational to use. However, it gives you option to act based on the outcome of your process run. So in case of the process should fail, you can actually set up two webhooks to wait, and if it triggers the webhook which indicates the failure, you could either create sub-process that maybe queries the work items and then retries the failed one and so on. So in that sense, although it is situational, it gives you some more options when you're handling your processes.
Cool. I mean that's an important aspect, because when a process gets triggered, you need to know as an orchestration platform, irrespective of whether the process was successful or failure. And if there was any failure, as you rightly said, there could be some sub-process that you try to write, and based on that logic, you either re-trigger or let the user know. But definitely there will be some different path, and it's good that we have the ability to inform the webhook about process completing successfully, or if there were errors, that clearly helps in decision making in the next step.
It is actually also.
Sorry, Raivo. If I may just jump into the conversation, there's also a way for our customers, anyone using control room, to look at the webhooks that went out. So it's really good to see the logs of the outgoing webhooks, or something that can help, especially when you're building an integration that did the webhook get triggered, what was the content. All of these things is accessible in control room.
Cool.
Yeah, and we can from this example flow, we can actually see that if the process failed, then we shouldn't continue. But if we just run it, set it to run from the Robocorp, and we don't care what is the outcome, then we might go into the wrong path with outcome. Okay, yeah, but
that's pretty neat, right? Like, it has that ability of tracking and auditing, as well as making decisions and sub processes. Cool. Any questions from the audience to Raivo on this particular demo or on the topic of integrations? We also have Ben here now, where we can ask him questions about the APIs or even control room. And back to Raivo. Raivo is somebody that knows everything about the libraries and the implementations of automations, spreading across APIs to inspectors to libraries and keywords. So ask out any questions that you have on any of these topics. Happy to answer. But while those questions comes, Raivo, a question to you. The new APIs, how do you see, as the end user of the APIs, the difference between them to, say, the old APIs? Do you see any materialistic change? Do you have some favorite features, favorite reasons to move to the new APIs?
Well, as you saw the list, and it was quite long, so I haven't tried all. But and I haven't. I don't have any favorites, so it's all good. And from my part, I always enjoy that. The documentation is really nice. So
cool. Yeah. Awesome. Ben, related to that, since it's been just a couple of weeks and we see loads of endpoints already. So when we moved from the old APIs to the new APIs, did you do it all at once, like a big bang approach? Was it more iterative? What was the approach, and why did you choose that?
So we released everything in a dark launch fashion, meaning that all the endpoints were out there just for no one to see. They were just hidden. So that's the iterative approach. But when came the announcement, we decided, and that was the stressful part, we decided to announce everything at once. The reason putting ourselves in customer shoes is like, if you release a new API and you tell me it's better than the previous one, and then okay, I'm going to start using it, and then I can't find an endpoint. Okay, it's better, but the endpoint is not there. What should I do? Oh, use the old one. Then it's not better.
Correct.
And so that was really the idea, that if it's new, it must be at least as good as the previous one. And the bar was pretty high. And add on top of it, otherwise, why would we bother? As a customer, why do I care that Robocorp has a new API? That's not. So we wanted to really make sure that there is value, and that meant releasing everything the first day and more. As Raivo said, there's quite a few endpoints added to that. And if anyone in this audience is interested in seeing new endpoints, you have the opportunity to ask away. I will not promise that this will be released right away, but this is definitely something where we listen. We listen actively on the communities, on Slack, on anywhere we get customer feedback. So we truly listen.
Yeah, and with your permission, Ben, I want to show you something that happened yesterday, and I think I am so proud of the way that we listen to our developers, and also just give me 1 second.
And in the meantime, there is a comment from Yuvaraj. I hope I did not butcher your name, and I apologize if I did. And I'm really happy to say that we feel the same, and we are working on that. So creating a process via the API for the exact reason that you mentioned, automating the deployments of new workspaces, new processes, especially for when you have for customers, all of these things. So yes, answering this question.
We are
working on.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Tejus, I cut you.
No, please, you finish the.
So yeah, we're working on this. This is really, and I'm glad that you took the time to write this message, because I can say with confidence that yes, it is coming. This is something, maybe a tiny bit of a segue. We are also looking into exposing the event-related endpoints. So being able to list the secrets the same way the environment variables tied to a process. So the idea, what Raivo was showing, is that it should be two ways, the integration with Robocorp, and we of course want you to be able to retrieve information from control via the API as well. So this is coming. I can't promise anything, because as you know, it really depends. There's sometimes things unexpected happen, but we're working on it actively.
Cool, awesome. I mean, does it come before Christmas or after Christmas is my question.
The create process, you're putting me in the tight spot, Tejus.
You need not answer that. I'll give you that.
I officially no, unofficially maybe yes. So take whatever you want to hear. But yeah, we like jokes aside, this is something that we feel deeply. It's not just some talks on some vision. We want to execute on that vision.
Cool. And you got his name right. Yuvraj.
Okay, really good. I was a bit stressed then.
Cool. So with your permission, I'm going to show this very quick, my favorite thread. I think I have taken enough screenshots of this. So yesterday, one of our community members asked in the channel, help control room, which has about, our Slack is also growing. We are growing our community. You see already 17,000 plus people very actively on this channel and also on forum. So one of our community members asked a question or a problem that they were having. I will let Ben talk about the details, but I'll just show you. This happened at 4:11 p.m. India time on Tuesday, and we acknowledged it within few hours, less than maybe 4 hours. We said, yes, this is a problem. Raivo also jumped in, started understanding, then responded that we understand this. And then we are trying to fix this. And within the next, 4 hours, maybe 8 hours since the time it was reported, it was fixed. And it was not even a fix per se. It was actually an enhancement request. And that was done within 8 hours. So what do you want to tell about this, Ben?
First thing is, credit goes where it's due. It's Raivo. Raivo is paying we're all working on different aspects, and I would not be able to spot these things. So Raivo oftentimes will handpick, usually answer. So essentially helping the teams a lot, because he provides the answer that for customers, and in some cases raises these things when he identifies that there's something that the team could potentially do. So once we get these things from Raivo, then we look into it, we discuss internally, and in that case, it was really clear that we could do something. So
Yeah.
So without going into too much detail, the endpoint that this customer was using was limited to 20 requests per 10 seconds. And we did that because we wanted to be really cautious when we released the endpoints, to be as low as possible, usable. But as soon as you have more intensive workflows, if you have small processes, not a problem. But this customer is building heavy automation, really complex automation with a lot of data flows. In this case, this didn't cut it. So we increased this value and then released it later on.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, this is, I just wanted to show that to the audience, to say that when we say we listen to your feedback and we listen to your feature requests, we are really honestly trying to listen and trying to get your priorities on our roadmap. Maybe this was something already on our roadmap, but helps us prioritize, helps us understand what is that something that you need now versus something that you may need later. So that definitely helps us in putting some of these actions, when it is required. So again, just an example like that. So if you have any such questions, feedbacks, comments, and feature requests, don't ever hesitate. Just drop it on the Slack channel or drop it on our forum. We will definitely look into and consider to bring it as soon as possible. We're almost on time, so if there are no further questions, I thank you both, gentlemen, for joining this show on a very special day, the Thanksgiving. So I thank you again for participating. Thank you, Raivo, for amazing demos, and thank you for doing the amazing work and keeping the community, the spirit of the community. And thank you, Ben, for giving us insights about what goes in the platform team and what are your priorities as. I will see you in some more editions, more talks, more demos in the coming year. Thank you so much. I see one last. I have a point from Daniel. Thanks for all the updates. Thank you, Daniel, and thank you everybody that joined. I will see you soon in the next edition of Product Art Live. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, Tejus.